What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Game Plan, where we break down NFL Week 7 bets, DFS plays, a little bit of everything. I've got John Statsational Alessia here with me, the lead betting analyst over at the Sharp app, and of course, one of the top DFS players in the known world. Where are you ranked right now, John? You top 20? You in the top 20 yet?
I never ever look at it, so
Oh.
I have no idea. But it's somewhere up there. Yeah, no, I was in there. I don't know.
The other day, somebody on Twitter told me that only losing players are associated with DFS Army.
Oh, all right.
On Twitter, there was a Twitter person.
Despite the millionaire maker this year and Bobby's 2, and
not to mention winning the last night in NBA for the first night, and winning every single showdown so far this season. Pretty much 90% of the showdowns DFS Army's taken down, but no winners here. Only at those other sites where only the staff ever win.
Exactly.
Only the staff win. Oh, they have a staffer that wins. Okay. They don't even use the stuff they sell. That's how it goes. And the same over on the Sharp app, where John, I don't know if you know about your boy. I don't know if you know. I've been tipping bets over on the Sharp app.
Oh, I know.
Since it started, right? Been tipping my bets, just sharing them. They are tracked. These are the bets that I give out on the Sharp app. They're signed to my name. Actually, it's Chief ST is my name on there, but I'm changing it to Geek so people know who I am. Right? Been tipping them. Last 30 days, 28, 13, and 2. 68% win rate, 20% ROI. Is it sustainable, John? Have you ever heard of such a record?
It's they don't come around that often. So we're gonna say you're on fire right now.
You gained fame from going like 62% for an NFL season. Where's my fame? Where is my fame?
You got plenty of fame. We're gonna get more fame though as this show starts to blow up and the Sharp app continues to blow up. You'll be even more famous.
I want it. I need it. Give me my fame.
You don't want the listen. Nobody wants fame.
No, I don't want the fame.
You want money. Like when you're a kid, you're like, I want to be famous. No one wants to be famous. You got to have something mentally wrong with you to want to be famous.
Listen, I'm just happy to tip bets and not lose. I love betting and winning. Like when you're not losing, it's so much more fun.
Well, yeah, that is definitely true. We talk about it all the time. Losing in all aspects of life hurts way more than winning ever feels good. So
the pain of losing. Yeah, I basically live my life not looking to win anything, but to avoid the pain of losing.
That's right.
I feel relief when I win. I don't feel like, elation. I feel relief. Like, oh, thank God I didn't lose.
But if you want the secret to being successful is you have to be willing to lose. And most people aren't willing to lose, right? Because that feeling hurts so much. It's why the Sharp players take games that, like Atlanta last week. Now I didn't have that, the Falcons, but I mentioned it in our Discord. I'm like, boy, this line just looks crazy. It keeps coming down. Who the hell is betting Atlanta? It looked like sharp money was on Atlanta. I'm like, guys, I'm not taking it, but it looks like sharp money's on Atlanta. Because the public won't take it.
Never have the tools pointed so clearly to a spot to stay away from than San Francisco last week. You nailed it. I'm like, why are the betting handles the handles? And we'll talk about the handles as we go through each game this week. But I was like, what's going on here? These handles are like all the sharps are on the Falcons. Now, I'm kind of getting why they're on the Falcons because the Falcons have covered against the spread every single game so far this season. So at this point, it's a trend. Like you can just now bet the Falcons. They're covering the spread no matter what's going on, no matter how bad Mariota looks. But let's get into the breakdown. We're going to talk DFS. We're going to talk bets for the week. And, it is it's Wednesday. It's kind of early in the week, but we have a lot of data. And usually it's a good time to get on these now before some of these lines move. So let's get right into it, John. First game on the slate, NFL Week 7. We've got the Bucs at Carolina. Bucs are 11-point favorites in this one. And the total is a minuscule 40.5. Now, I don't actually know who the quarterback is going to be. Jacob Eason? I know Sam Wise, the Brave, Darnold, is now been elevated off of IR, and maybe he might play this week. But I think that actually makes a big difference. As bad as Darnold is, Eason is a zero out there. Darnold has a couple good games before he mentally falls apart, and this could be one of those situations where he hasn't fallen. It takes him 2 or 3 games to mentally fall apart. It's the Darnold way.
Well, the thing for me in this game is more the Tampa side, and that is this team has not clicked yet. And maybe they won't. I mean, when you have a 45-year-old quarterback and you got an offensive line that's a little banged up, everyone just keeps expecting, I mean, they could not have been more disappointing last week, killed people in survivor pools, wound up being beneficial to me in those pools. But yeah, that was a big, if you could lose to Pittsburgh, you could lose to Carolina. I don't expect it this week. We're looking at a double-digit favorite. Yeah, you got up my screen there with the app right now. And as you can see, you could get plus 11. I like the Carolina side of this game personally. Again, it's because Tampa has not proven that they can be a double-digit favorite over anyone. I know Carolina's probably the worst team in the league right now, certainly with the quarterback issues, but I don't trust Tampa right now. I'm going to just take the 11 points. I took it last week. I took the points last week with Carolina against the Rams. Didn't work out. I mean, they basically got down to the goal line to cover the game, and we got a pick in the end zone. So that killed us. This is the AI prediction model. It likes the game right about where it is, 11.5, not a ton of value. Thinks the line should be 38 though on the total. That's
a no bet right there. Definitely not taking Tampa. And you're right. Let's see what the sharps are doing. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing here. There's nothing there. It's literally there's no sharp side. So far, no one has taken a strong position on this game. On the betting markets, you could see by the handles that there's.
Well, you can see you can see the under though. Looks like it could be catching some sharp money on the under. We can see where the line has moved on the total, and it has come down just a half point so far. But it looks like maybe some sharper money on the. And we say that when you're looking inside the app, bet percentage is the amount of tickets that were bet, and then money percentage is the amount of money that's on a team. That differential, when we see a big differential, especially when you have like 30% of the tickets and then 70% of the money, oftentimes that does mean sharp money because the sharps are going to bet at a higher bet amount. Their unit sizes are a lot greater than the average public.
Yeah, there it is. So the money is coming in on the under, and I mean it's 40.5, a really low line, and that kind of brings us around to a little bit of the DFS side of this one, where normally, listen, Brady's a heavy favorite is not something that would normally scare me away. They will style on people in past seasons and just put up a bunch of something's off about Brady. The fact that he's not really practicing with the team on Wednesdays, he's like taking a day off, and he's just being like a little bit diva-ish, which isn't the Brady way. He's got the personal issues going on. I don't like to make too much of shit like that, but something's off. You're right. They haven't clicked yet. Normally, Godwin would be smashing. It's hard for me not to want to play Godwin every week at 6K on DraftKings, and he's back there again. And these guys should absolutely be getting touchdowns every week. I don't know. Will Brady come around and play like his usual self? I think you got to keep going back to it, but it's hard to trust it outside of your tournament entries where it's like, fuck it, I'm throwing away lineups on scenarios that if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But like, I don't think you could trust Brady in like a cashy environment at this point. Like he's just not looking right.
Well, as bad as Carolina's been, they haven't really you haven't had a lot of success with the quarterback. They've actually been above average against quarterbacks slightly. And they're below average against the running backs because they've been behind in games. Teams have run on them. So we could get, maybe this could be more of a Fournette type of game than really a Brady game. So I would anticipate that more so the running game here this week. But they've been decent against the pass. They just can't throw the ball, and you can't expect them to really do anything offensively. Carolina, certainly for fantasy wise, this Tampa defense is still pretty strong. Just looking at my numbers, Tampa across the board, they're one of the best teams against running backs. So this is another possibly bad week for CMC until he gets traded to the Rams. And maybe that'll change things up for him. Where are they talking, Rams or San Francisco, which is another interesting one if he goes there. That would be fascinating.
He's got to be traded. I think DJ Moore would be a nice trade as well. And Carolina should really just look to tank it and get the QB, Stroud or whatever, and start from scratch. That just seems like what they need to be doing. When you get a fresh young QB, the last thing you need is a 27-year-old running back getting paid on your team. They need to get rid of him. I mean, if they kept DJ Moore because they're kind of like, hey, we need something for our quarterback next year, fine. But it's time to get. Yeah, they got to move McCaffrey. It's just a waste. It's like, think about your dynasty team. Yeah, you're not trying to hold McCaffrey if you're not competitive the next 2 years. Like, sell him now.
And they've totally abused him. I mean, no one's touched the ball more than he has over the last few years. So definitely want to get. I mean, they probably should have got rid of him before the season started, to be honest. But yeah, you got to do it now.
Sell now. And there are teams that'll pay you a first rounder probably for him right now, and you know, or a second. Make the move, Carolina. It's time. All right. As far as, again, for DFS purposes, I think you're right. I think it's Tampa defense. I think it's Fournette. And you could play Brady and his pass catchers, but it's a little sketch. Nothing from Carolina here. All right. Next game we've got on the docket is the Falcons at the Bengals. The aforementioned always cover the spread Falcons against the Bengals. Now, last week, Joe Burrow had the breakout. Joey Swag was back, right? And was in the nuts. I was like, Burrow priced up, not my thing, but was in the nuts. So, you know, it's a reminder that doesn't matter what the situation, when, where, Colts. One of the interesting things about the game last week was they were up against New Orleans, and it's hard to run on them. So you tend to see a little bit more passing volume in those spots. And again, we've got the Falcons here who always cover the spread.
And we had Latimer out last week too, which kind of helped the situation with Chase, because Chase finally had the game. You know, he hasn't been great.
He would have owned Latimer anyway. He's not.
It's possible, but he hadn't had the big game yet. So definitely nice to see from Chase. But yeah, as we're looking inside the Sharp app, you can get 6.5 on the Atlanta side or lay 6. This is also one of the great things with the app, is that you're gonna find that oftentimes the lines aren't the same at each book. Now, you know, in the NFL, you might be a half point. Sometimes it's a full point differential. And that's beneficial. You really need to get multiple sports books in order to take advantage of the different lines. You're going to see it on the props, especially as well. But 47.5 is the total. When we look at the AI model, it likes it at 5.5 and 48.5 on the total.
I'm surprised the model isn't starting to swing even more to the Falcons with how often they've covered.
I mean, I guess, but it's you know, it's taking everything into account. I think part of the cover, not that it's luck. Yes, they've been playing tighter games, but even if I bring up my rankings, I don't have them that very high in
they don't seem like
power rankings.
It feels like it's been smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way, and I think the numbers kind of say that as well. So we'll see again this week. It's not a game. I don't believe I was on this game. Was I on this game? No, I wasn't on this game. So, but this is how the line has moved. Basically, it's right back to where it opened. It bounced up to 7. So if you wanted to get Atlanta, you probably missed the opportunity to catch them at 7. And then when we see where the total has gone, it's gone higher. Like 43.5 all the way up to 47.5.
That's really fascinating. So since the Bengals have that one big game, and now there is scoring prowess team. I mean, Atlanta games go low. So I like the under here. I don't really like this move at all.
Yeah, I would definitely lean towards the underside myself on this one, and then you could see the money. It's really been fairly split here on the game as far as the spread goes. When we look at the total, I mean, just all the money on the over, which is why that line has been going up. But I think you can fade that move as well. I kind of like the under in this game.
I like the over when it was 43. I don't like it now.
No, it's up there now
for DFS purposes. I think you just can go right back to I actually like. So one of the plays I like, and I want to kind of run this by you, is, listen, last week, Joe Burrow and Chase did it, right? So my feeling is, if I'm going Burrow this week, I'm going to lean more T. Higgins. I just want to swing it the other way. The other thing is I want to lean a little bit towards Joe Mixon. He ain't a crook, son. He's just a Mixon, right? Mixon has remained and continued to get opportunity after opportunity. The touchdown variance has been brutal to him this season. He's got, I believe it is 2 touchdowns on the year. But if you go back career-wise with Mixon, he has scored a touchdown on just about once every 30 touches. And this year he's got a lot more touches than that, right? He's got 100 and he's approaching 150. So the traditional sort of touchdown variance needs to swing back in his favor at some point. And with Mixon, that happens on a week like this with like a multi-touchdown game when everybody goes to Burrow or everybody's Burrow chase. That's when Mixon busts out with the 2-touchdown game. John, I feel it in my bones.
Yeah, you might be right. It could be some regression because right now, from the number standpoint, the fantasy numbers, quarterback, they've been fine. Plus 4.5%, plus 4.5 points above their opponent's average that they've given up. The wide receiver's been great. They've been scoring 9 points above where their opponents have given up, but they've struggled at the running back. And that's really been like as you said, it's been because of the touchdowns. So they're 3 points under what their opponents have been giving up to on average to running backs. Now you look at Atlanta, they've been slightly better. They've been a point better than average against the running back position. Where they've struggled is against the wide receiver and the tight ends. They've been 4 and 5 points worse against those two positions. But so when you just look at it strictly from the number standpoint, and you don't maybe take into account the fact that there's been a bit of touchdown, that we have not seen the touchdown production yet, you might be right here. And we might get Mixon where, again, you're right. A lot of people are going to be looking more towards the pass catchers here. And we might be sneaky with Mixon.
Yeah, I'm not. I agree with you. The matchup absolutely points to pass catchers, and in that scenario, again, my leverage would be swinging over to T. Higgins. But I think the real sneaky one, the chess when everybody's playing checkers game is to look at Mixon here. He has to get back. There's nothing different about what Mixon is doing this year. As a matter of fact, he's getting more volume this year than he did last year, and last year, 6 appearances in the Millie Maker. Time's running out for those 6 appearances, John.
Time
is running out.
Won't be 6. He's going to be, he'll be popular this week just because it's the game script with that line. We'll 6.5 point line, the favorite. And Mixon is Mixon, so people are going to take him. But this could be a good spot for him. But
that's my spot. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm down with the Atlanta weapons. I think I'm neutral on them. I'm neutral on London. I'm neutral on. They just don't throw the football enough. I'm neutral on Pitts. He just hasn't had big games. I mean, it could come at any time. I'm not saying I'm not going to play them. I'm calling it neutral. Same shit as always.
Cincinnati's been very good defensively against the quarterbacks, against the wide receivers. So this, I think it's a tough spot here for the Atlanta.
I feel neutral about it. Like, they could do it. I mean, London, if London is the only guy they throw to and they throw to him 10 times, I don't care how good Cincinnati is. He'll probably get you there because he's not that expensive. But it's just like, doesn't excite me. All right, let's move on to another game. This one is fascinating to discuss, and I'm really actually interested in seeing what the metrics on the app actually show for this one, because we are getting the return of Dak Prescott, I think, this week for Dallas in the ultimate matchup, in the matchup we dream about. What do you dream? Like, some people dream about different things. I'm not even going to talk about it because you fucking people are disgusting. But I'll tell you what I dream about. I dream about teams that go up against the Lions. That's what I dream about, John. I'm like, oh, who's playing Seattle this week? Who's playing Detroit this week? That's the first thought I have at the start of the week. So now we get this weird scenario where the Cowboys are getting their quarterback back. Oh, I'm hesitant to play a quarterback in his first game back. Well, scary. I don't know what he's going to do, right? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be rusty? No one wants to click the button, John. But yet, what if he's fine? What if it's Dak fine? And he's up against Detroit, and Detroit's doing their thing, and Dak's scoring, and everyone's like, oh, shit, I waited to play him because I thought he needed a game or two to knock the rust off. And he's out there styling against Detroit. Why didn't I think of that? They're up against Detroit. Oh, yeah, Detroit. What does your chart say about teams against Detroit? It's going to be lots of green.
Yeah, well, I have it the other way, lots of red, just when you look at Detroit, but it's the same. But it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So Detroit they're second or third worst against the quarterback. They're like 4th or 5th worst against running backs. They're one of the worst, like 4 or 5 teams against the wide receiver, one of the worst teams against tight end. So, I mean, everything just lines up here.
Don't you think
Dallas.
Do you agree with me Now we'll talk about who, but don't you think people will be scared to start Dak this week and kind of like build a team around his weapons when you're like, I haven't seen this guy. I don't know if he's back. I don't know what his story is.
It's possible. But my theory with these all the time in fantasy, if they're playing, then that's it. They're 100%. They're playing, and I don't ever worry about it. Like if you're going to put them on the field, I'm just going to assume that they're going to be themselves.
Even hurt Leo Jones.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's not go crazy.
But I'm going to go back to what he normally is, which right now his normal sucks. So
yeah, that's true. So let's talk about this game a little bit because I actually am curious to see what the bettors are doing. I can see. So I mean, Dallas is -7. Man, I don't think I'd be on that -7. It looks like the model here has it at -6, so pretty close. Dallas is at home, but you know what? It feels like, you know, the dome feels like home for Detroit too. Like it's the same kind of environment.
yeah, I kind of like Detroit in this game plus the 7 points. I think it's a little too much.
Dallas coming off a tough loss though. They're going to want to bounce back.
Yeah, they're definitely going to want to bounce back. I get that. That was a primetime loss against Philly. They did play well in that game when you look at it statistically.
It was a big win for my money.
Yeah, you had a nice bet on that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can see what was the so the total is at 49. The model likes it at 50.5. So it likes this game to be over a little bit. It's going to be difficult again for models because we haven't been dealing with Dak all year. We only had him for a few quarters so far.
It's the handle that I was curious about, and it does look like the bettors are all over Detroit. So, I mean, this is the number I really wanted to see here, and it's very clear: 54% of the bet percentage, but 87% of the money. The money is coming in on Detroit. Has the line moved to reflect that?
Yeah, so we could look at where the line has moved throughout the week. It really hasn't moved much.
No, which this is
when
a
you look
symbol.
At the spread. So it's come to, it went up to 7.5 and then back to 7. So it
that's
hasn't moved a lot.
That's a sign that the books don't mind taking in all that Detroit money.
It is, yeah. So I like to monitor this. Now I already took Detroit when it got to when I got to 7. I wish I got the 7.5, but when I got the 7, I took Detroit. And you are right though. If you want to monitor these things, if you're seeing all the money on one side and then you don't see the line moving in the same direction. So if this now it's hard to get lines off of 7 or 3 because those are the key numbers, but it's really significant, even more significant than any other move if it does move off the 7 in either direction. And if you're seeing all the money coming on one side and this game goes up to 7.5, that's a big red flag. There was a game, wish I could remember which game it was the other day, but there was a game like that. And sure enough, it hit.
I feel like that was the San Francisco game.
Could have been the San Francisco.
Yeah, it was the most
but actually, we saw it
game.
again. Yeah, we saw it again with the Monday night game with Denver. Matter of fact, you switched your bet on that one.
Yes, I did.
You originally had the Chargers. You wound up switching to Denver, and we were seeing something similar in that game where that line just kept coming down. Yet the money necessarily wasn't backing that, or at least that's not what we were seeing. When you see that kind of a move where, you know what, the books aren't afraid to take even more Charger money or the Atlanta money last week, I should say Denver money, and they were not afraid to take it. No, I said it right. They weren't afraid to take Charger money. They weren't afraid to take San Francisco money. If you see that, and that could be the case here, so I could be on the wrong side. We'll see as the week goes on how this line moves. But you want to, that's just another handicapping tool in your tool belt to look at. And of course, with the app, it makes it a whole lot easier because it got all that information right in front of you.
What I do in those situations is I just listen. If I like one side, and like I said, I flipped my bet on the Broncos because it was very obvious. Again, the sharps were screaming, "You got to bet the Broncos here." Same thing happened with the Falcons. There are certain situations where you gotta listen to what you're being told, or at least turn the bet off and just don't do anything. Save your money. But so as far as this game goes for DFS purposes, I love a lot of it. It's Detroit. You want to target players against Detroit. Michael Gallup, yes. Even Noah Brown, all right. CeeDee Lamb, elite. I'm a little I'm really not. I can't get down with Zeke at his price, but Zeke makes sense here. I'm just not going to do it. But it makes sense here, but I'm not going to do it. As far as the other side goes of the game, you got Amon-Ra back. He's going to be covered by Trey Diggs. I don't think Trey Diggs is like that good where he could maybe shut down Amon-Ra. And then, of course, Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, the return. I don't really like targeting teams against Dallas defense. Dallas defense, very good. So I'm probably not going to get too excited about the pieces from Detroit from a fantasy perspective. But I do like the pieces from Dallas. And, it's all those elevated numbers that are on, that just happen to team. I prefer actually Detroit games in Detroit. That's my favorite because Detroit hangs in there, where in a game like this, they might actually just kind of like melt away. But my feeling is they won't. They'll keep it close. Everybody's on the same side of it. Everybody thinks Detroit's going to keep it a little closer than what the line indicates. And that just spells fantasy production. The more the Lions can score here, the more they force the hand of Dallas, the better it is for us from a fantasy perspective. So yeah, I'm going to get down with Dak and all of that. Dak with Gallup, Dak with Lamb. Why not? Probably not in game stacks though. Team stacks only. Game stacks not working, John.
No, you can't game stack this one more than like. I don't like. I mean, just kind of glancing, I don't really love any game stacks this week. They haven't been working, as you said, and this week looks like one of the worst weeks really that I've seen this year to game stack. So yeah, I don't particularly love the game stacks here. I could also, now I like, for all the reasons you said, I like the Dallas players, but I could see you go, if you're MME 150 lineups, I could see being underweight Dallas in this game. I don't mind that. And certainly
if they're high owned, I'm under the assumption they won't be high owned.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at it. I think you're going to get some high ownership. I think Dak's going to be like, 10%.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. If he is, then you won't. So in other words,
Against me.
If you want to be 5% Dak, then I think that's a good number to be. And if he's 10%, we'll take our chances there. And, I don't think he'll be under that, but I think 10% will be the number. So I don't mind being 5-6%, something like that on Dak. So
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to be, at least early. That's what I'm looking at right now.
The other name I didn't even mention from this game, but might be one of the better plays because his price has come down so significantly. But this guy's injured is Dalton Schultz, and he's been hurt, but he was great when Dak was there, and he definitely did not do well with Cooper Rush. But when with Dak in place, he was fine, and we'll see if his injury thing is continuing or not. But Dalton Schultz is kind of forgotten, but his good games definitely came with with Dak at the helm. All right, John, real quick, I want to talk about the show's sponsors. There's so many of us, but first of all, Sharp app, make sure you download the Sharp app, get John's picks. You can tail his bets. And of course, DFS Army right now is doing our NBA promotion. And this is no joke, John. Promo code TIPOFF over at DFS Army gets you 20% off any package that we carry. It's through the end of the week. We never do that. 20% off VIP, NBA only. If you want to do Core 4, NBA and NFL, whatever you want to do over at DFS Army, you can get 20% off with code TIPOFF. But we also got to talk about our sponsor for this show, which is Thrive Fantasy. And Thrive Fantasy is a props game, over-unders props. And what they do that's really cool and unique is they have these GPP-style tournaments listen, they're going nonstop for NBA. We've got breakdowns for it over at DFS Army on our YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit notification bell, all those good things. But you enter these contests, you pick any number of we talk about it every week, these over unders. You really want to take the higher numbers. Use the DFS Army projection model to drive these over under decisions. But basically, you enter 5, 6, 7 of these props in this tournament. Whoever scores the most points wins. It's not that hard. It's like creating a giant parlay, but the prize is massive and the overlay is great. This is actually a better odds for anybody than even betting parlays or just generally creating massive parlays because there's overlay here. So the site is losing money. Reminder that if you sign up with promo code DFS Army over at Sharp, they will give you not one, but 2 tickets to these $20 or $25 entry contests as a gift for using the code. Plus, they'll match your deposit up to $200. So $200 deposit gets you $200 in bonus plus an extra $50 worth of tickets over on Thrive. Check them out. I enjoy those tournaments. They're fun to enter. Super easy to just slap a lineup together and see what happens. So Thrive Fantasy, baby. All right. Next up. What's the next game, John? We've got the Giants taking on the Jaguars. Giants are 3-point underdogs. This one's interesting. Giants are underdogs. They win. What are they? Aren't they the number one team in the NFC right now? They're underdogs to the lowly Jaguars. What's happening here?
It's pretty remarkable that they're 5-1. That's for sure.
They are. You know what? Good coaching helps, but what's the Jets' excuse for being good? I don't know. We'll get to them. So Giants, 3-point underdogs on the road at the Jaguars, and the significant DFS pieces from this game. We've got, of course, Saquon Barkley on the Giants, and maybe random wide receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson's kind of cheap. All right. That's about it. Not super excited about the Giants side. And on the Jaguars, you really can't play almost anybody. Their running backs are too sketchy right now. There's 2.5, maybe 3 of them that are getting touches. And their wide receivers are very up and down. Zay Jones has been a guy I play most weeks, but just for the cheapness of him, not too much DFS interest for me in this game. I don't know if you feel differently, but what are the books saying?
Yeah, so let's run through it. We've got obviously Jacksonville 3-point favorite, 42.5 on the total. I don't know if this is going to be unusual to most people if you don't sports bet, but like you were kind of alluding to, man, the Giants are 5-1. When I do my power rankings, like Jacksonville's way above the Giants right now in the rankings. This line makes sense. The Giants have been winning, but haven't really. They're not out yardaging.
They have not looked good doing so.
They haven't looked good.
Like the Jets.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, just for those who look at, and I post the power rankings for DFS Army, it's really primarily the yardage and points scored, right? So it doesn't factor in turnovers, and of course there's other things like penalties and whatnot. But what I've seen historically is that coaching can sometimes add. So we would see like New England would be slightly better than they normally were. Baltimore's another team slightly better than the numbers show. And they've got a really good coach now. Now it's, I don't want to put them in the Harbaugh and Belichick category just yet, but it could potentially be where this team's going to outperform how their numbers do based on the coach. This was a guy I thought he was the must-get coach coming into really last season. I thought I thought really the Bears should take a shot when you had a quarterback like Fields. To try to develop him like they did with Allen. But the Giants, similar situation, young quarterback who hasn't really performed well, Jones, and they get a guy in there who hopefully can turn him around. But so far, so good, 5-1. Anyway, that's the line that we're looking at right now. This is the prediction model, which is in the ballpark here. 2.5, it thinks the line should be, and then 42.5 on the total. You see the spread is just kind of bounced around from that 3 to 2.5 number. Really not much movement there. Has the total moved? Yeah, from 42 up to 43 and then back down to the 42.5. You can see on the handles that we've got, again, this one's pretty split. So far, these games pretty split on the money. We're not really seeing anything that would indicate. I wouldn't really necessarily.
A little bit of action. Yeah,
on I wouldn't consider that heavily sharp money on that side. And then if you look at the total, we've got 25% differential. This could be a little bit more on the underside that we're seeing some sharp money. So I would definitely lean towards the under in this game.
I feel that as well. So yeah, I mean, and that also speaks to it not really producing very much for DFS purposes. I'm not excited about that game. I don't think I would bet it, and I don't think I want almost anybody from this one. Saquon Barkley actually projects as one of the better plays on the slate. But I like Saquon Barkley better when his team is favored and when his team wins. There's a massive difference in his splits on wins and versus losses. So, and plus this week is a weird week. I've already done the numbers, John. I've made a bunch of lineups. It is difficult to pay up at any position, but specifically at running back this week, it's quite a difficult position to pay up at. So be careful there. I don't have much going on there from a DFS perspective at all. Quite honestly, the fantasy players on that game, I just want to avoid, again, except for punting maybe with Wan'Dale or Zay Jones or taking a shot with Barkley. I'm not touching Etienne until he takes over the role. I think Etienne is going to eventually be a great running back in the NFL, but he is definitely being blocked by his limited role on that team right now.
I don't know if this is going to come as a surprise or not, but the Giants are number 1 against the wide receivers.
Yeah, I know. He's getting ones. I don't know why. There's no cornerback on the Giants who's scary to go up against. It's weird. But yeah, they've been doing that. How? I don't know. But yeah, they're ranked first. And quite honestly, I don't know why. And like I said, they don't have a cornerback who is a brand name or elite. There's nothing really going on there that says they should be number one, but you're right. They're doing it. So it's an avoid. It's an avoid. All right, Cleveland at Baltimore. This game is interesting, John. Baltimore 6.5-point home favorites in this one, 45-point total. Fantasy angles galore here. Lamar Jackson, he is probably the most volatile. He has a lower floor than most people give him credit for as a quarterback, but he's all over the place. When he's doing it 40 plus fantasy points, and when he's not passing 20, and it's been a career of this. This is not something that's new to this season. This is something that's been going on with Lamar years, and it's weird because you would think a running quarterback should have more of a floor in the 25 to 27 fantasy point range of his level, but it's just not there. He has these games where just gets nothing, and then he has these other games where he puts up 40 plus. I'm leaning to the bigger game here. I'm just leaning that way. Cleveland, mediocre defensively, very bad against the rush in particular, and I assume that we have to treat Lamar more like a running back in that scenario. And the Browns have just been absolutely terrible against the run this season. One of the worst ranked teams. I don't know why it's not like been their history to be bad versus the run, but a quarterback like Lamar, when you get after him, right? And the Browns do get after the quarterback. When you get after him, he has to run, right? He's scrambling, and that's where he can really make his money. So, you have a Browns team that's aggressive, trying to get to the quarterback, and a quarterback who, when you do that, will burn you. So there's a scenario here for Lamar to have a pretty good game. I don't really usually play pieces from the Browns because I don't like the running backs. They don't score enough to win you tournaments. I've been saying it all year. But Chubb's having a great season. Even with that, he's not showing up in tournament-winning lineups most weeks when he's priced where he is. He needs 3 touchdowns, and it's hard to get there. But on the Baltimore side, give me Lamar. It's tough to stack him. Andrews, very expensive stack, but that's the side that I'm kind of interested in. And I don't hate Amari Cooper or David Njoku. I kind of like on the Cleveland side because I do think Cleveland's going to be chasing points in this game, and they won't be able to just sit on the run. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, just from the betting standpoint, 6.5 is the line right now, 46 on the total. We could look at our model, has it at 5.5. Not too far from where we're point.
That's a no bet, by the way. I just want
to say that. Point, especially 5.5 to 6.5. Yeah. Not a huge
from the model anyway. You could bet it for other reasons, but the model is not giving a bet signal when it's
not a big signal there. 47.5 is the model's total, so that's what, 1.5 off of where we're at. You can see the line really hasn't moved much, 6 to 6.5. Again, to get to the 7, that's always going to be significant. If you see this get to 7. And certainly if the money's not coming in on the same side, if we're not getting Raven money and yet the line goes to 7, something to keep in mind. Not saying that's going to happen, but we see the total, it's kind of bounced around, went all the way up to 47, now back down to that 45.5. And then the handles, we're looking at about 3/4 of the money coming in on the Baltimore side of this game. Again, I wouldn't necessarily label that as sharp money. There's a little bit more percentage on the money side than the bet percentage, but I wouldn't necessarily label that
that feels like sharp money to me.
It could be. We'll get now. I don't have the sharp report. We have something called the sharp report in the content section. Actually, just open up our content section. You can see all the content in here, and there's something called the sharp report. In that report, it'll tell us who the sharp money's on. I'll just show you a little bit of it. So like right now, we got the Frisco game under and Carolina as +10. So there you go. The Carolina game that we were talking about before. Sharps took it at +10. I took it at the 11 earlier, right before we went on here. So anyway, we'll go back to that game. But when you get the app and you get the pro version of the app, you get that sharp report. You kind of want to use it in conjunction here. So then on the total, we're seeing about double the money on the over. Really nothing in the way there that's giving away any sharp money on there. It's kind of even with where the bet percentage and the money percentage are on the total in this game. Now, just of note for DFS, Baltimore has been terrible against quarterback and wide receiver. Now, this is not necessarily a great throwing offense that they're going against, but just something to keep in mind. They've been bad. They've been getting torched
I refuse to
in the
believe it.
passing game.
I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the way this year's going, we're going to see, I think what we're going to wind up seeing week in, week out is just different stacks or different quarterbacks getting into because there just aren't that many really solid, I could just bank on this play. And then you've got, the good team, you got Buffalo off this week and no Jalen Hurts this week. And, so during these bye weeks, I think you're going to see some odd teams. Maybe, that's why I always suggest, especially if you're in a big GPP and you're just throwing one dart at it, or you got 3 entries, something like that, just get off the chalk, because the chalk in general here is it just hasn't been that good. And there's no great chalk here this week, I don't think.
Expanding on that point, people misconstrue. People always say, well, I only have 1 entry. What should I do? And people tend to actually go more conservative with that entry, where it should be the exact opposite. Like if you're only, like, people say single entry to me, but like we talk about this a lot. But when you tell me single entry, that means nothing. All that matters is the size of the tournament. And the larger the tournament, the more off chalk you should go, especially with fewer entries. Like, people think, well, I only have 1 entry, so let me play Josh Allen last week because I want to kind of like cash. That is the exact worst way to be thinking about DFS. Just in general, you have to do the opposite of that. Say, well, I only got 1 entry and I'm not cashing if I play a Josh Allen lineup against 40,000 other Josh Allen lineups. Let me try Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Let me try Tua. Let me try something different.
If you're just the way, if it gets you excited to cash, then play cash games.
Yeah, or play small tournaments, which I love.
Play small tournaments are great.
I love small tournaments, guys. Play at a tournament with 25 entries. 27. By the way, I put in, on the Showdown Breakdown last week, or last night, or Monday, whatever the hell it was. I put in a lineup. Like, I was like, all right, let me grab like a chalky lineup, slap it together, and we'll put it in like a 25-person entry. And it won. Took first place. Like, it was not even a special lineup. It was nowhere near the nuts, but it won. And a $27 entry netted me $350. Okay.
We'll take it. Yeah, I do. I do the Survivor. I just did it right before we went on here, and you could get it inside the Sharp app or on our YouTube channel. But I just talked about just that, right? We talk about every week. It's all the same type of thing. When we're looking at DFS, you're looking at Survivor pools. The more equity you have in the pool, we talk about that a lot in Survivor, because as people get eliminated, your equity is going to change based on how many entries you have relative to the field. But in general, the worse the situation is that you're in, and in DFS, let's say there's 10,000 entries in a pool, you've got 1, the odds of you winning obviously are not very good. They're 1 in 10,000, all things being equal. That means you have to get riskier. And same thing in Survivor pools. As I lose equity, I have to take more risk to try to get myself back in a favorable position equity-wise. Same thing in DFS. So the less people I have that I'm competing at, you're in your office pool that you're doing on DraftKings, and there's 10 of you. You can almost play a cash lineup, right? Because you're playing against idiots more than likely, right? And you're playing, and you don't need to score 250 points to win.
Well, so the people in my office aren't idiots.
I don't mean to say that about your wife.
You're talking about like regular people's office.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I know, because your office is basically the wife and kids. That's about it. That's
no,
all.
I figured it was like DFS Army.
That office is different. No, that's a different office. But you know what I'm saying? So just always think about that. When you're in an advantageous position, and whatever it is, you want to take less risk. When you're at a disadvantageous position, you take more risk. That's a good general rule when it comes to betting.
All right, we're about to move on to Colts Titans, but I want to mention to everybody, number one, how are you liking this format? So we John and I changed up the format of the show. We're getting a little heavier into the analytics of these bets and kind of showing our tools and on screen and how to use them. And I find that that's personally helpful for me. I like watching John kind of break it down for each game and use the handles and all the different data we have on the Sharp app to break down these games. So I hope you guys like it. Let me know, comment, let us know if you like this more and sort of this format of the show. And of course, if you're enjoying the show or you hate it, I don't care. Still smash that like button, subscribe to the channel here, because that's how we do it. That's what we're doing. It helps the algo, helps people find the show. So I'll make sure you're doing that. All right. with that being said, let's talk a little Colts Titans. And the Titans are at home, 2.5-point favorites. I have some DFS perspective here. With a 43.5-point total. Now, from a DFS angle, again, I mentioned this a little bit at Barkley, but one of the biggest home favorite, non-favorite splits in all of football is Derrick Henry. This is a player who absolutely smashes in wins and actually tends to have down games in losses. Now, that seems logical, but it's not always the case. But that is very much the case with Derrick Henry. And without having the splits in front of me, the fantasy points differential is more than 10 fantasy points per game in wins. So I like it when the Titans are favored. They're favored by 2.5 here. We've got two elite running backs going against each other. The Titans don't really have anything going on in the passing game that I'm interested in. With Treylon Burks hurt, it's just like old man, dusty ass Robert Woods. Not somebody I'm trying to roster. Not somebody I see with like a 30-point upside. Just not exciting, right? And then we got the Colts. The Colts with Matt Ryan coming off of a 40-plus, maybe 50-plus targets performance last week. Michael Pittman had a great game. The running back got 11 or 12 targets, Deion Jackson. Now we get probably Jonathan Taylor back this week. Can you play Jonathan Taylor against the Titans coming off injury? Probably. We might not ever see Jonathan Taylor this inexpensive again. Plus his backups, plural, seem hurt. So it might just be the Jonathan Taylor show. I don't think Nyheim Hines is going to be back for this one. We'll see. I don't know if Deion Jackson will be healthy for this one. We'll see. But Deion Jackson was a one-game wonder kind of thing. So Pittman, Taylor on the Colts side. It's a low total game, John, but all of the games are kind of low total this week. How do you feel about it? You skirted this one in DFS, and how do you feel about it from a betting perspective?
Yeah, let's just go over the bets here first. -2.5, +2.5 on this one. Again, another one lingering around that key number. Hasn't gotten to the 3, or it has, but it's been bounced around. 42.5 on the total. If you look at the model, the AI model in here, we've got it at -2. Again, right where the number is, and 42.5. Where was the total? 42.5. So not a whole lot to garner out of the AI model. You can see we did bounce to 3 and then back down. It opened at 1.5, got up to the 3, then back down to the 2.5. And I don't think we've had much movement on the total. Yeah, it got up to 43.5 and then back down to the 42.5. When you look at the handles, again, not too much to garner from the handles, pretty split on the spread. When we look at the total, again, fairly split. Not sure, could possibly be some sharp money on the over, but again, we haven't seen that yet inside of the sharp report. Of note in DFS, what I was just looking at with this one is Indianapolis. Again, they've been phenomenal against wide receivers. Tennessee has been terrible throwing the ball. So that side, I think you want to kind of eliminate. Like Tennessee throwing the ball.
It's Henry or nothing.
It's Henry, absolutely. Indianapolis has not been good against running backs, so they're giving up 3 more points than their opponents average to running backs. And of course, Tennessee, one of the better running back teams. Henry, they're averaging over 6 points more than opponents are giving up. So I think that's the focus on this game. If you look at Tennessee now defensively, what are they bad at? They are the worst team against wide receivers in football. And you've got now Matt Ryan throwing as much as he did last week. Even Deion Jackson had a great game last week, so they've had some success. Now he had a lot of targets.
Over 10.
10, yeah,
over 10.
Yeah, so he caught quite a few balls last
Which
week.
They don't normally do on that team. It was really fascinating.
Right. It could just be the player. I don't know a ton of Deion Jackson. I just watched. I mentioned him last week because I watched the game the previous week, and he did look much better than Lindsey. That proved out to be the right play there, was to take Deion Jackson. And but yeah, Tennessee against wide receivers. So I would expect Matt Ryan and company to really throw. They've been terrible against quarterback, terrible against wide receivers, really good against running backs. And they really haven't run the ball well, the Colts, even though we had the Deion Jackson, but those points came in the passing game.
All via the pass. But
so
Taylor's been hurt. So,
Taylor's been hurt, but he wasn't good when he was in there either. They just haven't had success blocking. That hasn't necessarily been his fault. They just not blocking super well. So I'd be a little cautious on Taylor coming back here. You do like the fact that if Hines is out and Jackson's out behind him, I mean, they have Lindsey. I'm not sure what Lindsey's status is, but they'll throw him in there a little bit. But it's going to be the tail of the show. But I would look at the pass catchers here. I think we could see a big game. This could potentially be a game with Matt Ryan. Again, like I said,
And
you're
I
going to be
hate
looking at
chasing.
quarterbacks.
I just it
I
makes
don't
me
like to
nauseous
chase. I get it.
This big game.
Yeah, I get it. But I think they're in a pretty decent spot here. I wouldn't be upset with you if you took Tennessee, or if you took Matt Ryan in a single game bullet.
It feels too chasey to me. I can't. Too chasey.
I get it.
The return of Jonathan, but I don't mind Pittman. I don't mind a piece from it. I cannot chase the quarterback who does not put together consecutive good games. I don't want to start a habit of it. Even if it works, it's just like a habit I don't want to get into. I don't want to be the guy who's doing that. So it's weird, but I'm just going to not do that. I thought about it a lot. I mean, I'm telling you, I had to think this through. I was like, fuck, it doesn't look too bad, but I don't want to be that person who chases fucking Matt Ryan. So I'm not going to do it. It's like, I just don't want to be that guy. I know it's weird. It just makes no sense, but that's why I just can't. All right. We got more games to talk about here. And this is a defensive battle. The Packers taking on the Commanders. Commanders, who's the quarterback? I don't know. Is it going to be Heineke? Maybe. Is it going to be who the hell's the other guy? Howell? Who's the Coral? Howell? There's a rookie there. Sam Howell? Matt Coral? I don't even know. I think it's Sam Howell.
I think it's Heineke who's going to be playing, but
it'd probably be Heineke. Heineke's actually not bad. So if they put Heineke in there, Heineke is a competent quarterback who started a whole season in the NFL and won't be overwhelmed. And I actually think he'll do his best in his first or second game of the thing. The Packers coming off another horrible loss. It is looking weird for the Packers right now. It's just not going well at all. Nothing about their offense is clicking. Aaron Rodgers does not seem to give a shit. He's going the way of like Russell Wilson out there right now, of just like not looking like he cares that much about winning anymore. Pissed that the team got rid of Devontae Adams and left him devoid of pass catchers. Maybe, I don't know. At wide receiver, we're going to see Lazard, who I think is a perfectly good play. Romeo Dubes, who is fine. And I think we'll see Christian Watson for a lot of snaps this week with Randall Cobb probably on the shelf. So we may get to see the young wide receiver Christian Watson here. Will he do anything? I doubt it. I cannot think of any DFS angles that interest me in this game at all from either side, other than maybe Packers defense. But John, I think this one is a straight avoid. Again, Lazard fine, but probably not going to get you 25 that you need to really make a difference. I just don't see anything here.
Well, I mean, if they're going to break out Green Bay, this would be a good spot. Washington's been absolutely terrible against wide receivers, not very good against the quarterback. They've been decent against the run. So this would be a good spot for Aaron Rodgers to bust out. Now, as you think the numbers have been bad. They've been really just hitting the averages, Green Bay, at the wide receiver position against their opponent. Now, Rodgers has been bad. He's been underneath the average for quarterbacks, but they've been right at the average. I hate to give up on Rodgers here. I don't necessarily, this is not a game that I'm getting overly excited about, especially on the Washington side. Green Bay has been phenomenal defensively. They're giving up 6 less points on average to quarterback, 8 less points than the average than their opponent. And it's Heineke. And then you've got they're 8 points better against wide receivers. They're almost 5 points better against tight end. They're pretty much flat against the running back. So I definitely don't like the Washington side of this. I think if you want to gamble a little bit, maybe you take a shot here with Rodgers. But I agree with you. It's not one of my favorite plays. Did we go over the betting angles on this one?
No, any betting angles going on for this
game?
Yeah,
so I mean, it's at 4. Here's another good example where you're getting a point differential here. You're getting 4.5. If you want to take Green Bay, you're laying the 4.5 at
I think
FanDuel.
the Packers. You got to play the Packers here.
I would definitely, I'm definitely leaning to that side of the game. The Green Bay. Not only am I leaning that side of the game, I'm taking that side of the game. I like the Packers side. 42 is the total right now. So we do have now. If you look at it, the model actually thinks Green Bay should be an even bigger favorite. So if you're getting the 4.5, now you've got a 1.5 cushion according to the model, and it likes the game under which I don't know if I like I don't know if, maybe
I agree
just the
with
fact
it.
that Washington, you don't like, you just don't think Washington's going to score much.
They
That's what it
can't
is.
score.
Yeah.
They don't have dynamic players. They can't score. They don't have Heineke cannot get the ball to Terry McLaurin. Like he's not an accurate quarterback. Their running backs are grindy, bruisery. I just don't know where the scoring is coming from.
Yeah, I could totally see that. You see this
Yeah.
line really bounced around quite a bit since and a lot of that has to do with the quarterback
That's a
situation.
quarterback
Yeah,
situation,
so we
right?
don't know where,
But the handle's telling me nothing.
it is not on the spread. Let's just look where the line has come down as well, or on the total, I should say, has come down. And yeah, there's my Green Bay pick. If you're in there for the pro picks, my pick is in there. Yeah, the handle's not telling you much on the spread, but look at that on the total. I mean, everyone's kind of in agreement with you there. And
Green Bay plays a very slow methodical style of football when they're ahead or when they can control a game. There's never a time when Aaron Rodgers is snapping the ball and it's not 2 seconds left. That is just how he plays. That's how Green Bay offenses operate. I don't know that they do it because they're trying to milk the clock. I think Aaron Rodgers just wants to read the defense, and he takes all the time that he can. I don't know if it's we're trying to purposefully milk the clock thing that they do. I just think Rodgers likes to really see what the defense is giving him, and he's his style of quarterback play. So the snaps are lower. Total snaps are lower in these Packers games, which leads to lower scores if they're not able to have Devontae Adams making big plays or Romeo Doubs, getting 40-yard bombs. Like if they have to drive up the field, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, that's why I think the market's kind of leaning towards the under.
Not too much excitement for me over that game at all. All right. Next up, Jets. My beloved New York Jets. A winning team, John.
Hey, you got something to root for finally.
Dude, let me tell you something. All right. Before I get into this game, and it's the Jets are +2 at Denver, which is weird for me as well. Probably should be favored. And I definitely like the Jets. I don't think I can bet them, but I like the Jets in the spot, John. But the Jets are doing it with smoke and mirrors. This is a running back and defense-driven team. I want to be clear that Zach Wilson has shown nothing since he returned. Doesn't mean he can't turn it around, get better. He didn't have much of a preseason. He's still getting into the swing of things. I still have hope. I still have hope. Hold on. I'm still hopeful.
Hopium.
Oh, so good. It feels so good. Smoking the hopium for Zach Wilson. But there is no evidence whatsoever that he doesn't suck. So let's throw away the record and understand what's going on here. The Jets are dominating with their defense. Fucking Quinn and Williams. They're dominating with the defense. And you know who stinks? Just generally? Denver's offense. They suck. They suck. Russell Wilson, he looks like me out there running around. Literally like my twin. The stomach, look like a couple too many Taco Bell trips. You know what I'm saying? The height. We could be brothers. Look-wise, very similar. Very similar.
You're attracted to the same age women?
Yes. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
Dad jokes. But he's dork. I'm a dork. I think actually there's a lot of similarities there. But I wouldn't be an NFL football player. And so listen, let's keep it real here. I don't know where I went with that. Russell Wilson sucks right now. This guy is fucking terrible. He's missing open receiver. It's just not good. I like the Jets defense in this spot. I like Breece Hall combined with Jets defense in this spot. And I don't like almost anything to do with Denver. And I like the Jets to actually win this game. That's right. Jets fan. Oh, you're a homer, Kevin. I don't think I've ever picked the Jets to win a game in the last 6 years. Any game. But you cannot bet on Russell Wilson. He stinks. And I'm sorry, it's just legit. So give me the Jets defense in the spot, the cheapest viable DFS defense of the week. That's an important defense. Didn't think of that, did you, John?
I did.
Blew your fucking mind.
This is probably the lowest. I'm just kind of glancing at it. The lowest combined quarterback numbers that I have projected for a game. So obviously we're not going to love stacking this one, but from a betting standpoint, you can still get plus 1.5 over at FanDuel, and it's a pick 'em other place. So again, you're getting a decent spread.
Dude, the line is moving because this was plus 2 earlier.
It has moved. I definitely lean the Jets. I haven't taken it yet. So we'll see. I'm just kind of waiting, because if I lose out on 1.5, I'm not really that concerned about it. Because that's just not
it's got to take the money line. But it was, like I said, it was plus 2 earlier today.
Yeah. The money line was probably the way to go. 38.5 on the total. Again, I mean, we've seen enough. Denver is just in prime time. We keep getting the primetime games, which is just exacerbating the Russ issues and Hackett. I mean, it's been a mess. So 38.5 is the number. Now, from the AI model, the model likes it at minus 1.5 for Denver, which is pretty much where the market is, but it actually thinks slightly over 2 points. Is it 1.5? Yeah, 1.5 to the over. Not tremendous, but it does like the game over.
You know how the game gets to the over? I know what Skynet is thinking. Skynet's like, these teams, these offenses suck so bad that we're going to get like aggressive defensive scores from both sides,
or great field position on turnovers. That's actually not what they're not turning the ball over a ton. I'd have to look at the numbers, but just because we've seen so many Denver games, it's just that they just can't move it.
Yeah,
they're just not moving the ball. It's not like he's not giving it up, but they're not moving the ball. But this opened at 4, made its way all the way down to 1. Not surprising. Let's see where the total.
Do you think this opened before Javonte Williams was injured? Like, could that have
something to do with it? This is after. This is after that,
or at least I think what happened was everybody watched Monday and realized, Melvin Gordon's kind of dust.
They didn't use him.
He's not good.
It was Murray. I'm glad I picked up Murray.
Why are they using
in a lot of leagues.
Why would you use a 34-year-old Lats Murray?
I didn't think he looked that bad.
He looked fine, but
I thought he ran well. I don't know. Like, first of all, you're trying to get into trying to get in the head of any of these coaches is almost impossible.
Nate Hackett is like
this guy Hackett. I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want to be in his head.
It's like opening up a container of cottage cheese and dipping your hand in it. Like, what the fuck is going on in this guy's head? How many games he's lost after you fuck up a bunch of calls, right? A bunch of late game timing decisions. Stop doing that. Stop getting crazy. Like, you know what? You already fucked it up like week 1 and week 2 and week 3. Week 4, don't go for it on 4th down. Don't like go for 2. If it's 4th, if you're remember that week against I bet them. I think it was against the Colts where it's 2 minutes left. They're up by 3. The Colts can't move the football. They're in field goal range. Like, no, we're going for it on 4th down. What are you doing?
It's the worst possible situation when you have someone who has, and I'm guessing, I don't know the man personally, but what I'm guessing is, and I know people in Major League Baseball, so I'm going to assume the NFL is kind of similar, where the front offices are giving these guys all the data, the numbers. Like, this is the situations. This is what front offices are controlling a lot of the game. Again, in Major League Baseball, I don't know how much in the NFL. But I guarantee he's getting all this, like, hey, listen, 4th in this, we need to go. But when you have a coach who doesn't totally understand it, he may be looking at it like, well, we always go here. It's situational, right? You should be going for a lot of 4th downs, but a couple of things. When you're doing it at the end of the game, like they did, that you talk about the Colt game, makes absolutely no sense when you do.
That was
you have to. But the numbers, the analytics are based on. They're based on the macro. They're based on all of the NFL. When you look at your offense and your offense can't move the ball, it changes the numbers.
The opposing offense can't move the ball.
And the opposing offense can't move it.
Every moron who was watching from home knew exactly what the right move was. That's what bothers me. It's like in the draft when you pick the wrong guy and everybody in the audience is like, what? Warren Sapp was available. You took Kyle Brady? What are you doing? The whole audience knew this. Everybody watching these games knows the correct time management or end game coaching
again,
moves.
I think what happens is if you get someone who isn't confident in and understands where the numbers come from, it's not just getting the numbers. You have to know what's built into it. Then I think it throws them all. You have a rookie coach, and if he doesn't totally understand that he's making really bad decisions, I don't even know if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm basically calling him an idiot.
He's an idiot
because he has certainly performed that way. And I don't know how long he's going to be there. You can't fire him in the first year, I guess, after a few games, but I don't think he's long for the league.
It's so frustrating, but you got to blame Russ for just not being good either.
Russ has not been good.
Russ
wasn't that great last year, so you got to take that. I've been hoping to get some time. I wanted to watch the All 22 on Denver and see how much of it is Russ, because I don't think a lot of these guys are open either.
So, I'm going to give you a little pro tip, John. Actually, it won't work. It's not as good as the All 22, but if there's a NFL highlights thing on YouTube where it will show you every relevant play. It's not going to show you the general malaise that is watching Russ like throw balls to the ground. They skip those plays, but those are the ones. But they show you every play that's relevant in the game, and it's like you can knock it out in 11 minutes. So I'm able to watch all of the games highlights on Sunday nights in like an hour and 40 minutes. I knock them all out. I even put it on 1.25 speed, squeeze a little more time out of it. But like you can't see, the problem with that approach is you don't see all of the just wasted plays, just bad throws, all that. You don't see it, but that's what his whole thing has been this year. So fucking Russ sucks. I bet the Jets. I got the fucking number better than where it is now. That feels good. I'm seeing it's moving. It makes sense. Jets defense, Breece Hall is the man. Breece Hall got those fresh young legs. Fresh, so young, so fresh. I love it. Running backs, first year, fresh. You see him driving through. These younger running backs, like you see a Melvin Gordon fall down when you breathe on him, and then you watch a Breece Hall or a Kenny Walker, and these guys have all this energy. I love it. So Breece Hall is definitely in play. 70% touch count last week. It's going up and up and up. That's the play in this game. But really, this game is in a void because 38-point totals are not usually going to win you tournaments, no matter what position you are picking from. All right. Guys, let us know who you like this week. Guys who are watching, like, who are you betting this week? Hit us up in the comment. I read every comment, John. I read every comment. A lot of them are hateful.
They're not very nice.
Well, sometimes they're nice, but other times it's somebody, sometimes they're hateful. But I read them all. Let us know. Who do you like? You going against my picks? You're going for? You got a DFS play you love? Hit us up in the comment section below. I love reading these comments. So keep it coming. Even when you're hateful. But don't be hateful. It hurts my feelings. I'm sensitive to that. No, I'm not like a grizzled person. I'm very sensitive to it.
No callus on you.
No, not yet. I'll get there, but not yet. I got to make some bad bets, and then I'll get the hate. The death threats. I don't like that either, by the way. Don't do that.
No one likes
All right. Houston at Las Vegas. I like this game, John. 7-point favorite home Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, 7 point, 45.5.
45.5 point total. Interesting. Raiders. Whoa, what is going on with Josh Jacobs, the resurgence? Do you know that FanDuel now has Josh Jacobs priced all the way up in the stud zone? And I'm talking about like in the stratospheric stud zone, 8,600 this week on FanDuel. And FanDuel is very quick to adjust pricing. And actually, their numbers are oftentimes, especially the running back position, more appropriate than what DraftKings is doing. So I use that as an indicator. DraftKings still has Josh Jacobs down in sort of the average running back zone. So I've already decided that I'm going to load up on Jacobs on DraftKings and full fade him on FanDuel and just allow that to sort of work against one another. But Jacobs, 30-plus fantasy points each of the last 2 weeks, gets the best matchup of the season. It does not get better than rushing against Houston. And this team under new coaching, Josh McDaniels, they like to run the football, and they are turning Josh Jacobs into a good player. We'll see if it continues. I loves it though. On the Houston's, and I don't think you need to do anything else with the Raiders. It is the Josh Jacobs show this week. Devontae Adams too expensive. Everybody else too turdly, right? On Houston, I loves me some Dameon Pierce, but I'm not sure that this is the spot. beyond that, it's Brandon Cooks. Sure, okay, why not? But nothing special. So, John, how do you see this game going down? I love Jacobs though. Are you on board with Jacobs this week?
Yeah,
Almost an all-in play.
you have to be, because this is the worst team against the running back position, Houston, in the league. So you've got a team that's really been pushing. Jacobs has been getting a ton of workload against the worst rush defense in the league right now. Yeah,
it's almost all in.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the bigger plays for the week. One of the bigger smash spots.
I know you max FanDuel and DraftKings every day. I don't know how you do it. God bless you. But I know you do that. So my question is, I mean, that's how you maintain your top 20. I never check status, right? But how do you feel about my thoughts in terms of the dichotomy between FanDuel and DraftKings this week, where you say, you know what, fuck it, I'll go heavier on this guy on one side, and then I can full fade him on the other side where he's massively more expensive, and sort of I'll still get my exposure. But I will tell you this, John. I will promise you this. It's not like Jacobs is going to be higher owned on DraftKings versus FanDuel. Like, just because that dichotomy exists doesn't mean the field will own him just as much on FanDuel as they do on DraftKings. So for me, I think I can get my exposure on one site, and then I'll just full avoid it on the other.
Yeah, I don't full avoid it, but I think it's too good a situation. But yeah, being under the market on the site where maybe it's overpriced,
and massively over the field on the other one to make up for the fact that I'll be under.
I have no problem with that. You're basically diversifying a little bit, and I do that quite a bit. So I'll have more of a player.
You are paying attention. Like a couple weeks ago, remember Gaby Davis was $6K on FanDuel, super inexpensive, but he was kind of $6,500 on DraftKings, which, relatively speaking, salary on DraftKings should be $1,000 less than FanDuel, for those of you who don't know. So whenever it's the same, technically it's a lot more, right? It should be $1,000 more. It should be $1,000 less on DraftKings versus FanDuel. So when it's the same, that's like, oh, wait a second, something's off about this.
100%. Yeah, no. And then I don't think we went over the full betting angles on this one, but it has.
Is there a betting angle here? This is a tricky one.
Yeah, I mean, tricky game. But I did put a pick in on Houston. I'm taking the points.
Houston's been covering the spread. Look at those handles.
Look at the handles, and then Houston seems to be the sharp side of this game. I put them in here at 7. Actually, I think this was earlier today. I got this one at 7, and then the total is, if I can get it open there, the over is where the money's coming in on the total. Let's just look at where the line has moved on the over, and you see it has actually moved pretty much from 42 up to 45.5. So the market betting the over has moved. So it could be a game we see some points. I just really like Jacobs in this spot. I mean, you can't. This is going to be the best spot. 7 point. This fits right in the wheelhouse of Burns, right? 7-point spread, running back,
home favorite.
Running back that they give, home favorite, 7 points. You're playing the worst rush team in the league. Now, part of that, Houston, is because they're behind in games and teams are rushing on them, but that's what we expect right here in this game. So, really good spot here, I think, for Jacobs. Could easily see him.
How weird is it? Oh, how the tables have turned. You couldn't give Josh Jacobs away in the preseason. No one wants that. And yet here we are. So, between him and Miles Sanders, if there was ever some stinky cheese running backs that seem to be turning it around, I mean, Jacobs much more so. But it's encouraging to see, because you never feel good when you take the quote stink cheese running backs in your fantasy draft. But hey, man, if you took Jacobs, you're winning your league right now. So kudos to people who did that. I think you nailed the fantasy angles. Brandon Cooks and Dameon Pierce are playable on Houston. I think you could score on the Raiders. It's no problem. And yeah, for betting purposes, we've kind of been on the Houston side of almost every week this season. I kind of thought coming into the season they were a smidge better than the market was giving them credit for. And I think they've covered most weeks. And so you're seeing here that the sharp money is definitely on the Houston side. The sharp money, though, does chase those teams that seem to cover every week. Like you see it the same thing with the Falcons and a few of these other kind of perceived bad teams, but that keep covering the spread. All right. Did we talk Seattle Chargers?
Not yet. No, this is definitely one we have to talk about.
All right. So I'm going to say this is the game of the week. If we were still doing this core games format, this would be for me the game that would be the prime game of the week. And I want to kind of talk about what happened last week with Seattle. So wait, before I even get into this, last week I talked about how, listen, Seattle's a team to target in fantasy. You want to play just like Detroit. It's Detroit and Seattle. Keep those teams in your mind. When you look at, John, when you look at your fantasy points against sheet, it's got all the red for Detroit. It's got all the red for Seattle as well. Even after last week's dud, it's still going to be red all over the place. I don't even have the sheet in front of me. I just know it will be. So with that being said, the angle last week was, as much as I don't like Kyler Murray and I don't like the Arizona offense this year at all, I was going to play him, and I played him against Seattle thinking this is a matchup to target. It did not work. Murray had a shit game because Murray sucks. He's very similar to Russell Wilson. He's not good, and he just sucks. And he sucks this year, and he's not getting better. He's getting worse every year. I don't know how a football player can get worse, but he does. He manages to do it.
He said he hasn't struggled with the game since his rookie year. That's what
he said. How about fucking studying some tape and learning how to throw a football without throwing it directly into the ground, like every freaking ball that he throws right into the ground. So I'm sick of it. I'm sick of watching him. It's such a talent waste. It upsets me. But anyway, he sucks. But the difference is, who doesn't suck? Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has not had a great year this year, and he's not had a great fantasy season to start the season so far. But we know he's got it in him. We know it's in there, and he has not been getting worse. It's just been this the way games have gone. Austin Eckler is so dominant. That can happen again here. But I want pieces from the Chargers in this spot. I don't mind taking pieces from Seattle either. I love this game. This is a build around. This is the only game stack for me. I'm stacking it, John. This is the game stack of the week.
Probably the best game to game stack. 6.5 or 5.5. Again, we're getting a little bit of a gap here. I was hoping to get 7 with Seattle. Don't think that's going to happen. I think 6.5 is the best we're going to see. So if you do like Seattle, I would jump on the 6.5.
Go grab it. That's on. That looks like Caesars.
That's Caesars. Yeah, right, Caesars has it at 6.5. 51.5 is the total, and then the AI model thinks the line should be 5.5, which it's at a lot of places, and then 53. So we're slightly on the over. Again, that would play in nicely to the
John,
DFS side.
Let me point out real quick, like, I've been really happy with the AI model this year, and you see a lot of these numbers are kind of like the AI model does not look at the current spread. It's coming up with it on its own, and it's looking really, really sharp for NFL. It crushes NBA, but it's been really good for NFL this season as well. And it's not, it's given us little leans.
It gets better as it goes, right? So they keep getting all the data, and as you get week in, week out, we get more data, and that just improves the model. That's why it's so great in the NBA, because you get so many more games. So by the time you get a month into the NBA season, we've got a ton of data.
It's the neural net. It's a neural net that learns each week. It's very cool. Very cool. The scientists, the MIT crew look at the money. All right, there you go. But the MIT crew that put that tool together are spectacular, and it continues to improve. So we got real brainiacs kind of working on that model.
Yeah, I speak to them pretty regularly. Extremely bright, far smarter than I am. But
that's what I like. People smarter than us.
Yes. So really good. But you see the spread came down from 7 to, that's why I said I don't think we're going to get back up here. So if you do like Seattle, I think you missed your opportunity to get the 7.
This isn't even, by the way, I just want this betting handle is not even saying sharp money's on Seattle. It's just saying all the money's on Seattle.
It's just saying all the money. Yeah. And then you've seen the totals move down from 53.5 to 51.5. But yes, the money for the most part, almost all of it coming in on even the tickets. So
it makes sense. No one's blowing Seattle out of the water this season. They're a pretty good offense. I think I agree that I think that the Chargers are a better team. But do you not see with Kenny Walker against the worst rush defense in the National Football League? And I've already said that 3 times because there are like 3 of the worst. Chargers are up there with Cleveland as one of the worst run defenses. Again, in spite of the fact that they stopped the dust last week, they had nothing, the Broncos, for them. But this is Kenny Walker, fresh young legs.
Yeah, but you got to remember the Broncos were terrible running the ball coming into the
That's
game.
What I'm saying.
Right?
They had nothing for that.
So they didn't actually. So they actually
that didn't
did
even
better.
Harm their numbers.
They did well. They did better. Denver did better than they normally do. Their average, which hurts the Chargers even more because they weren't able to keep them to their average. So the Chargers are the second worst team to the run to Houston, right? We mentioned Houston, I believe, in the last game. Now you've got the Chargers, second worst team. Guess what? Seattle, not all that great against the run either. And who's the best team running the ball? I believe, and I'm correct, it is the Chargers running the ball. So you've got the Chargers are getting they're 10.5 points above their opponent's average. And you've got Seattle giving up 4 points more than their opponent's average. That's a great combination for Eckler, but also great for Walker here as well, because we see that now Seattle hasn't been great running the ball.
But they didn't have Walker. Well, they've been all right.
Yeah, they've been okay. But I think, yeah, this is a great spot for Walker, because the Charger defense just against the run has just not been very good. Now, oftentimes, right, we don't like taking that 7-point dog, the running back spot. So it could get tricky if the Chargers do get out to a big lead. Maybe we don't get a ton of Walker, but I still like Walker. I like Eckler better, but Walker's going to be one of the top plays on DFS this week for good reason.
We just spit out between the two, the DFS guys. We talked about Josh Jacobs and now Kenny Walker, both of them priced middling, right? On DraftKings, you got a 6,500 Jacobs, you got a 5,800 Walker. That you start your team. I think that's your core. That's your who I'm starting my lineups with this week. Jacobs, Walker, both in great spots.
And then keep in mind that this is the worst team, Seattle, that is, against tight ends as well. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be a highly owned. We're not going to get a ton of ownership here out of the tight end. Who's it, Everett? But
Don Parham was back last week.
Parham looked very good, actually.
Did he get hurt? Let me just check something here. He's got a Q tag. He's got another Q tag here. Parham is in concussion protocol. So I really like that. So Parham and Everett together was a bad scene.
That's bad. It'd be nice if I hope he doesn't have a concussion, but it'd be nice if we get just one of them, because Seattle, we're going to want to start targeting. This is going to be a thing, and I haven't heard a lot about it. But Seattle, Arizona, Atlanta, those are teams that you really want to target the tight end against. So I like that here to add into your stacks. Those are the things, if you're going to game stack it, love being able to figure out if I can get the tight end in there as part of the game stack. Usually helps the stack become a little cheaper and not as many people are on it. So I like that in this game.
Yeah, I love it. I love this game on both sides of it. I also think you can get down with Mike Williams. I also think you can get down with Lockett and Metcalf. I think you can play Geno Smith in this one. Now, I do think the running backs project as the best, but that doesn't mean these other spots aren't good also. So this is a game I'm looking to get exposure to across everything. It's hard to afford Austin Eckler, but he's got that 30-point potential here, but he's very hard to afford. Again, this is better week to pay those 6K running backs. There are a few of them, or even up to 7K. I might not want to go to 8, and I definitely don't want to go to 9 on FanDuel, which is what you have to pay for Eckler there. But overall, really, really exciting game to target on a week where there's not that much. This is the only game with a 50-point total. This is the one you want to get down to, except for one more that's coming up next. It's the last game of the slate. Before we get to it, guys, remember, you haven't done it yet. I know it because I see it. 70% of the people watching this video, they are not subscribed to the channel. They have not hit the like button. They haven't hit the notification bell. Do those things and let us know who you're betting on this week and who your top QB wide receiver stacks are for the week. If you've hung with us for 123 minutes and 24 seconds, you can take a minute to smash that like and hit the subscribe and the notification, drop a comment, do all those things. I probably shouldn't tell you to do all 6 of those things in one because it's overwhelming. You tell me more than one thing, John, I'm out. It overwhelmed me. I get frozen. You have that? I just get frozen in inability to do anything.
I'm usually able to handle multiple things.
You're a multitasker?
Yeah.
I multitask, but like you give me too many tasks, like I just thought
then nothing gets done.
I freeze up. I can't do anything. I've got a bunch of chores I got to do today, and I'm just going to do everything I can to avoid doing those. Like I got to get a fucking paper notarized. You know how annoying it is to get something notarized?
I'm aware, but I'll tell you, nothing I never get more done than when I have something that I don't want to do on the schedule. If there's something like
everything else,
because then I'll just do everything else that I didn't want to do, but I just don't want to do that other thing even more than everything else.
Yeah, I'm such a procrastinator. But the last game if you waited and you made it through, is very, very exciting. I love this game. And I like it for DFS. I think there's some interesting potential pop going on here that people aren't going to be thinking about. And I've got a quarterback that I might play this week, John, that I have not played in DFS maybe in ever since they were like, it's been about 3 years. It's unusual. But we've got the Chiefs taking on the 49ers in a battle of elite teams, a battle of playoff teams, a battle of potential Super Bowl contenders. The Chiefs are 3-point road favorites coming off that loss to the Bills. They're going to want to get right. Although, listen, the Chiefs have some flaws. They have some flaws. It's not an easy team to get right against.
San Fran coming off that loss as well. So this is a big game for both teams.
San Francisco, the letdown game last week. Everybody knew it was coming. Looking ahead to KC, thinking Atlanta sucks. So, yeah, both of these teams are coming in hot. And by hot, I don't mean hot. I mean motivated hot. So there's that. As far as San Francisco, and I know you're gonna be like, what the fuck? I think San Francisco offense, the passing game, is very interesting here. They're going to need to score, and I have not played Jimmy Garoppolo in years in DFS, but I think if I was ever going to do it, this might be the game to give it a shot. A couple things that happened last week that I think are relevant. Number one, Brandon Ayuk, little mini breakout. We know he's good, but we kind of saw it last week, which was nice to see. The other thing we saw was, listen, Deebo Samuel's still doing his thing out there, but more importantly, the running game for the 49ers, with Jeff Wilson Jr., it's not sexy enough in a game against a team like the Chiefs where you're going to need to keep up. You start running it with the plotter. In this situation, unless your defense is dominating, which I don't think is going to be an easy task, could be done though. So we'll get to that side. But if the Chiefs are scoring, I think the 49ers are going to have to open it up, and they have the weapons to do it. Kittle, Deebo, and Ayuk are formidable passing game weapons. And if they just if they just throw some targets, one or two of them, I think for Jimmy to get there, two of those guys need to be dragged there with him. So in order for it not to happen, I think Deebo would have to run in touchdowns. I think Jeff Wilson would have to have a good game, but somebody's scoring in this one. On the flip side, 49ers defense is good, but this is Pat Mahomes, and he just put up 26 fantasy points against the Bills, who are better as a defense than what the 49ers defense is. So I think there's some injuries to the 49ers. It's a little early in the week. Do you know if Bosa is playing this week, John?
I have not heard yet.
All right. So it's a little early in the week, and I don't want to talk to the injury. It doesn't even matter that much, but I am curious. So guys, let us know in the comments. What's the story if there are any holdout significant injuries here on this 49er defense. But overall, I think the Chiefs are going to score, right? They're challenged. They don't have Tyreek Hill. It doesn't matter. They're going to score. Kelsey's going to do his thing. They'll find one of the trio of wide receivers to do well, or some running backs can come. They're going to be able to put up numbers. And I think the 49ers are going to have to answer. I think you play Mahomes. I don't love it because he's the most expensive quarterback. And, when you're the most expensive, you're forced to score the most points. He's also a very expensive stack with Kelsey. And all of the other wide receivers are super sketch at this point. Last week it was Juju. Week before it was MVS. Maybe it's Hardman's turn. He's never taken a turn yet, so maybe it's his turn. I don't know. Sky Moore's starting to play a couple snaps. But overall, I'm weirdly like the 49ers side of this from an offensive standpoint, which is super weird for me. I don't even know. It's weird. But that's I mean, could you play Garoppolo? Are you down with the G?
You could definitely play Garoppolo, and I would definitely play him over Mahomes. I agree with that.
That's crazy.
As well. With the price and everything. And listen, Kansas City's defense has not been great. They've been subpar they're like 2 points worse in almost every category, just about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, everything but tight end. They've been 2 points worse. Now, San Francisco has been right where you mentioned Buffalo. They're pretty close to being on par with Buffalo in what they've given up fantasy wise. So again, in this game, the total is 48.5, which is a higher total or where was that game last week? No, the game last week
No,
was
that
even
was a
higher.
54. Like
50,
it was a higher total
no,
game.
it was like just over like 51, whatever it was. I don't remember if it was here or I did Sirius Saturday night, but I was warning that game could go under because I thought the Buffalo defense was the best unit on the field. I think that's a similar situation here. I think we could see a very low scoring game. So I would be I don't mind taking a shot here with Jimmy G, because if the game does get to the point where it needs to be a shootout, he's capable of doing it. Not my favorite game, not my favorite DFS game, but I could certainly see taking a shot here. It would be one of the games. It's not going to be heavily owned. You're not going to be heavily owned with the San Fran side, either side of this game, really, outside of Kelsey maybe or something like that. But I don't think you're going to get high ownership. You got to be a little leery on Kansas City as far as running backs. I don't like that at all here. I think San Francisco kind of shuts that down. And so, yeah, I'm leaning more towards the San Francisco side just because maybe they have to throw the ball a little bit more, but don't love it.
It's a tricky one. If you're not playing Garoppolo, it's tricky to pick because they do have Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle that could all be fed, and it's going to be really tricky to know where that will go. Debo's very, very expensive. If he's not doing big things, he's burning your lineup, and so yeah, it's tricky, which is why I like it more as a stack than I do as like, oh, I just want to have standalone Debo lineups. He's fine, but like, same thing with Ayuk. He's fine, but like, Ayuk is putting up sixes more often than he's putting up the big game from last week. So it's a little bit tricky. So I'd rather kind of have it as like a 3-max build around than it would in using the pieces from San Francisco as one-off plays, where it's just that feels a little sketchier because picking which one is just a pure guess. And I don't think that they normally don't support 2 good plays in a game unless Jimmy's doing it. So that's kind of my thought process there. And it'd probably be a Garoppolo with 2. I don't think I'd play him with just one of them. I think if you're playing Garoppolo, you kind of have to squeeze in 2 of his pass catchers because he's not getting there without 2 of them dragging you there, unless it's like the Kittle explosion that comes once every season. We'll see. All right. That's going to do it, John. That is our NFL Week 7 main slate breakdown. We touched on all the games. Guys, if you like this format, we did a little bit heavier on the data and on the sports betting side. I thought it was cool, but let me know in the comments if you like the format change here. A little bit more kind of showing how we use tools to come up with betting decisions and those kind of things. I think that I like it. I love that. I love getting into the mind of John, Statsational Alessia here and kind of figuring out how these plays come together. So for me, it was exciting, but let us know in the comments what you thought. And good luck this weekend, everybody. I hope to see you all on the top of the leaderboards. Let's crush it. Good luck. Thanks, John.